Khanna, Democrat from California, joins me now. And Congressman, you are unapologetically progressive. And I know that when you were pushing the Justice Policing Act through the House, you were called by some as being extreme. And then it passed. And I'm wondering, are many as extreme as you are in your party, and are they watching what's happening in these cities in America?
Well, Harris, I wouldn't say I'm extreme. I would say I'm common sense. First, let me be very clear.
I just quoted what they called you.
Okay. Well, I have a lot of respect for law enforcement. I don't support defunding the police. I think we obviously need police in this country. One can have that view. One can respect law enforcement who keep us safe at the Capitol, who keep my community safe in Silicon Valley, and still believe that we need police reform so that if you are black in this country, you don't face abuse. And I don't understand why we can't in this country have those two thoughts simultaneously, have reform and also respect law enforcement.
Well, we are struggling right now mightily to have two other thoughts in our heads, and that is why it seems like the shootings by cops get a lot more attention than other types of killings in this country when one clearly outweighs the other. Can we keep that in mind, and can we also keep in mind some of the numbers of just how violent things are getting? And when Democrats say reimagine policing, can they take into account that little Justin Wallace doesn't get the same name recognition and calling out because he wasn't killed by a cop? Why is that happening among particularly Democrat-led cities? And I'll ask my team to pop some of this up, because those defund cities, they are having a mightily struggle right now, Representative Khanna. And it doesn't get the same kind of outrage from people in your party that a cop-involved shooting does. Why?
Well, first of all, Harris, my heart breaks for that family and that young boy. Of course, that should be an outrage. Any loss of life should be an outrage, and we should talk about all violent crime. But when I talk to law enforcement in my district, what they tell me is some of the reforms that are in the Justice and Policing Act actually will de-escalate situations. It's not just that they will help civilians. It will be good for police. Police don't want to have an escalatory situation. So my view is, why can't we have common sense reforms? Why can't we work across the aisle to help protect law enforcement, but also protect people who have faced
Well, look, it's a
abuse?
good question. I would ask it of Maya Wiley, who's here in New York City, who wants to take $1 billion away from the police department. And violent crime is on fire right now, Representative Khanna. I mean, it's heartbreaking. It really is. And to think about defunding like that, you ask a great question. Why can't you come up with things that are common sense? Why is this catching fire, particularly among Democrat-led cities? What's going on in your party? And is it a divide that maybe the nation needs to know about? Maybe they move away from those cities. I don't know.
I don't think that's fair. I think that there are a lot of common sense things in our bill. I mean, what we're saying is that you shouldn't be allowed to have chokeholds. What we're saying is you should use force as a last resort, which is the standard in every other democracy. And my hope is that you could have people in the Senate come and meet us. If there are particular parts of the Justice and Policing bill that they don't want, fine, let's compromise. But let's get something done. And, you know, one other thing, because, Harris, I heard your previous segment. I just want to make it clear. I was born in Philadelphia in 1976, our bicentenary.
That's one of the cities on our map here. It's
well,
the murders up
32%.
In Philadelphia.
Philadelphia is our founding city. Every patriot should love Philadelphia. And let me tell you something.
Right now they need more police and funding.
All Democrats that I know love this country. I believe this country has been a force for good in the world. We freed people from tyranny in World War II. We freed people from communism. So I think that there is so much more we have in common as Americans. And I know it's easy to take some statement, blow it up. But I think what people want is for us to come together to make sure that we compete against China, that we win the 21st century, that we try to bring this nation together.
I hear the platitudes of wishful thinking about success, but people want to be freed from the violence in their cities. Seattle, 270 police officers leaving the force. I mean, It is something that is a crisis within our borders, and I'm just wondering where the outrage is. And I hear what you're saying. You want people to come together and to win on other parts of the world. I'm just asking, with Democrats bicamerally in charge on the Hill and the White House right now, why this isn't seen as an outrage and just an urgent moment. More than fighting anything else is fighting for the people in this country. And with all due respect, chokeholds and all that, I mean, yes, talk about all of it. But those children who were slaughtered on the streets of Chicago weekend after weekend after weekend who look like me aren't dying from chokeholds.
Well,
it's violent crime. All right. I do want to get to this because I know you want to talk about this as well. Former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is calling on President Biden to lead a global effort to hold China accountable for its role in the pandemic. He and former Bush White House advisor Scooter Libby have laid out their case in a Washington Post op-ed entitled "China's COVID Wrongdoing Warrants Punishment by a Biden-Led Coalition." Here's what Pompeo said.
We know folks got sick, that they went to the hospital from the lab, that there was military activity taking place in this lab. We have an enormous amount of circumstantial evidence, certainly enough to hold the Chinese Communist Party accountable for the billions of dollars that were destroyed and the millions of lives that have been lost.
This comes as the Senate is on the verge of passing a $250 billion bill to build up America's manufacturing and technological edge against China, as it becomes a bigger economic threat to the United States. And you played a big role in that, Representative.
Well, Iris, I'm really proud of that. It's bipartisan. I did it with Representative Gallagher, who's a Marine Republican from Wisconsin. We led it in the House, and Senator Schumer, Senator Young led it in the Senate. It will double down on artificial intelligence, on quantum computing, on the National Science Foundation, so that America leads in the technology of the 21st century. We don't want China to lead, and I'm proud of that effort.
Yeah, just real quick before I let you go, speaking of China, this whole thing about the origins of the coronavirus now. We have a very complicated relationship with China. What you're talking about, as I understand, is decoupling our success from theirs. Your last thoughts?
Well, what I would say is the way to win is to lead technologically. That's how we have always done better in America, and I believe in our innovation. Look, my district has $10 trillion of wealth. I've seen firsthand what American entrepreneurs can do. And here's what I would say, Harris. There's a reason that everyone in the world still wants to come to the United States. They're not trying to get to China. So we have freedom, we have innovation. If we make the right investments, we'll win the 21st century.
Representative Khanna, thank you for coming on the program, taking all my questions. Appreciate your time.